So we know what the relationship is between implementing monetary policy and the effect of that this policy may have on the aggregate economy. We have the money market graph, the aggregate demand, aggregate supply graph. We know how to shift the supply of money, how to shift aggregate demand and aggregate supply. And we have a fairly good understanding of how monetary policy affects the overall economy. What we're going to do this week is to evaluate the effectiveness of monetary policy in some detail. And, and the way we're going to do it is by making some assumptions about economic agents living in this economy, okay? And we're going to make reference to two different sets of models, or two different models, not sets, but models. One is the neoclassical model, and the other one is the neo-Keynesian model. And at the end of the day, what we want to do with these models is to recognize how economic agents may respond to the implementation of monetary policy. And depending on the assumptions we make, the outcome of this implementation will be distinct. So let me begin with this. We're going to suppose that individuals in the economy are forward-looking. That means they look to the future. Okay. So, for example, all of us are already looking ahead and planning for the fall semester. Okay. So, as soon as individuals receive information about what is going on in the economy, they begin forming their expectations and they start planning as to what will happen in the future. We're also going to suppose that the way these individuals form their expectations is via rational expectations. That simply means that we take into account all available information and we are free to update our beliefs as more information arrives. So, for example, yesterday I was planning on teaching 3 courses in the fall. And then I received information this morning that maybe there's a chance to teach another class, an opportunity. Okay? So as soon as I receive this additional information, I start thinking about the adjustments I can make for the future, for what I will be doing in the fall, for example. So we're going to suppose that individuals are like this. They look to the future and they take all available information to form their expectations about what is coming and to plan how they're going to behave in the future. Okay? Now, we have 2 schools of thought. The neoclassical and the neo-Keynesian school of thought. And what is the difference? The difference is, under the neoclassical school of thought, we're going to suppose that prices and wages are flexible. That means that, for example, if I notice that prices are going up and I demand higher wages, I will get my wage increase immediately. Okay? So wages are not rigid, either going up or going down. Okay. And prices the same. Prices can change instantaneously. The other school of thought, neo-Keynesian, sees things different or differently. The assumption is prices and wages are not entirely flexible. Why? Because of contracts. So if I have a contract at work, for example, and I want to get a wage increase next month, maybe that's not going to be possible because my contract ends in December and I have to renegotiate my contract at that time to get my wage increase. Okay. We're also going to suppose that wages are, in the same context, sticky, particularly going down. Okay. And that also means not flexible. But let me be more precise with stickiness of wages. So if I'm making $10 an hour and somebody says, I'm going to cut your wage to $9.50, that's going to be difficult to do. That's not going to be very easy to do. Okay. It takes time for my wage to go up because of contracts. And it's very unlikely, and hence sticky, for my wage to go down because of perhaps labor unions. Well, my wage is $10 an hour, and that's what it is. You want to cut my wages to $9.50, I'm going to go on strike. That's not going to be possible. Okay. So what we have here then is a fundamental difference. The neoclassical school argues prices and wages are not completely flexible. It takes time for them to change. And wages going down, it's very difficult for that to happen. It may happen, but it is difficult. Neoclassical, on the other hand, argues prices and wages are flexible. Yes, it takes time. Maybe I have to wait until December to get my wage increase. Maybe I have to negotiate with the labor union to lower the wage. But they are flexible eventually. Okay, so those are the assumptions. That's what we have. Forward-looking individuals, rational expectations, neoclassical, prices and wages flexible, neo-Keynesian, not completely flexible, wages and prices. What is the outcome of that in terms of monetary policy, and why does that matter? Well, let's do the graphs here. And I'm just going to focus on an increase in the money supply, just to make the point that I want to make. So let's suppose that the Federal Reserve decides to increase the money supply. As we know, that means interest rates go down, consumption and investment will go up, and aggregate demand will go up as well. So that's a typical interest rate channel that we talked about last week. So what would it look like under the neoclassical and the neo-Keynesian framework? Well, here's where we have to start being more precise. This announcement, there's going to be an increase in the money supply, can take two forms. That announcement could be anticipated or unanticipated. And what I mean is, if individuals believe the Fed will increase the money supply and they anticipate this to happen, and it actually happens, that's an anticipated announcement of the change in monetary policy. If this increase in the money supply came as a surprise, so individuals were not expecting the Fed to increase the money supply, but it did, that would be unanticipated. Economic agents were not expecting the Fed to increase the money supply. So what is the outcome under these different types of announcements? Anticipated and unanticipated. So let me do the anticipated announcement here. Now I'm going to start with the neoclassical framework. So this is the economy. This is real GDP. This is price, potential GDP, and everything begins at equilibrium, just to make the point of what we're trying to illustrate here. Okay, so everything begins at equilibrium 0, P0, and Y0. Okay, so the Fed announces that there will be an increase in the money supply. That means aggregate demand will shift to the right. Okay, so we do that. Now, because we have these forward-looking individuals, rational expectations type of individuals, what do they know about prices as a result of the increase in the money supply? What do they know? They know that prices will increase. Agree? We know that. More money means higher prices. Okay? So if you are a forward-looking rational expectations type of individual, and you know that prices in the near future will be going up, what do you do at work? Well, I personally, I would ask for a wage increase. Agree? Boss, prices are likely to rise over the summer. And, I like to get a wage increase so to match the price increase coming in the summer. Under the neoclassical framework, wages can change immediately. So what happens when workers demand these higher wages as they expect higher prices? Wages will increase. What does that do to aggregate supply? Aggregate supply decreases. Agree? An increase in wages means aggregate supply will shift to the left. So after shifting aggregate demand due to the money increase and shifting aggregate supply due to the wage increase, where's the final equilibrium? The final equilibrium is here, equilibrium 1 with this price level and that level of output. So if the monetary policy announcement is anticipated, everyone believes and expects money to increase, and this shift in aggregate demand, what is the effect of the announcement on the economy? Look at output. There is no effect.